It's time to feel what you've been bottling up. Life in rural America isn't easy. The long hours, the constant pressures, the demands of the land, livestock, and family, it all takes a toll. We're tough and we've got grit, but somewhere along the way, toughness started meaning bottling up emotions and powering through. But here's the truth. That strategy, it's not working and it's poisoning us. Maybe you've noticed and maybe you haven't, but the numbers don't lie. We're breaking down and it's showing up in our bodies, our relationships, and in the rising suicide rates in agriculture. You don't have to carry any of it alone. There's another way. If you're ready to stop being weighed down and start moving forward, my one-on-one good movement guidance is now open. Visit the link in the show notes to learn more and see if one-on-one guidance could be for you.
I'll carry you, you carry me, we'll help each other through it. Come on and say good movement draws good movement.
Welcome to Good Movement Draws Good Movement, the podcast where farmers, ranchers, and rural folks can grow relationally through awareness, understanding, and effective communication. Hey, it's T. I'm your host, and I, along with my guests, will be covering topics related to drawing good movement. Things like self and social awareness, brain science, positive psychology, extending grace, and so much more. We'll share tools that can help you understand why you are the way you are, why others are the way they are, and how you can use that to step out of self-told lies with grace and compassion to draw good movement in conversations, relationships, and life in rural America. Let's go draw good movement. Welcome back to the Good Movement Draws Good Movement podcast. Today we have a guest, and she's going to talk to us about something a little bit different than what we normally talk about. Kourtney Talkington is our guest, and today's topic is food, our relationship to it, and how we can go into the holidays when it comes to other people and their opinions about our food and eating and all the things. Kourtney is a down-to-earth advocate for mindful eating who's all about empowering women to find joy in food and life. After battling her own struggles with an eating disorder in high school, she turned that journey into a passion for helping others break free from food guilt. As a mom of four, Kourtney knows firsthand and understands the challenges of navigating healthy eating in a busy household. With her farm roots and bachelor's degree in nutrition and health and dietetics, she combines real-life experience with expert knowledge to help others connect deeply with both food and themselves. Whether she's speaking, coaching, or hosting workshops, Kourtney is dedicated to helping women create a balanced, guilt-free relationship with food so they can savor life and let go of what's holding them back. Welcome, Kourtney. I'm really excited for our conversation today. Before we dive into the meaty questions, see what I did there?
Oh, yeah.
Can you tell us a little more about you and how you got where you are today?
So my name is Kourtney Talkington. I live here in Western Kansas with my husband and my 4 kids on my family's farm. I am 5th generation and my kids are 6th. And I really think that growing up on the farm really set me up for my love of food and my love of people coming together and food being the center of that, because a lot of people forget food is literally at every gathering and it is supposed to be a joyful celebratory time. And so that is kind of what got me on my journey, as well as I had an eating disorder in high school and I live in a very rural area. And at that point in time, there wasn't a lot of knowledge out there on eating disorders. And I felt very alone and that no one truly understood what I was going through. So that is one reason here 10 years later, I'm trying to help rural women find their peace again with it.
I think that's really awesome. In so many areas, I feel like our rural communities are underserved. And so the fact that you're taking your struggle and knowledge, having had an eating disorder, and using it to help others, I think that is so awesome.
It really took a lot of time for me to embrace it because I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but sometimes when you live in a small town, when things go around, it honestly brings the worst out in people. Now that I've gotten older, I'm like, who cares? Who cares? Who knows? It doesn't matter. And if I can help one person, who cares if 10 people think this way of me? At least that person is getting the help they need, because I never want anyone to feel the way I did ever again. And I honestly think some of it was I didn't feel like I could share, or I didn't know if anyone would be willing to listen. And so that's where I just really want to be there to help people and hopefully make an impact.
And I don't think that's an uncommon story or feeling to have in rural America. We're brought up to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and be strong and rub a little dirt in it, and not necessarily always open up and talk about our struggles, not just eating disorders, but any struggle. And so I think that having a safe space and having someone who's walked through it is such a benefit to rural America.
Yes, I ultimately truly believe that too. And the funny part that I kind of laugh about now is actually in high school, I was already that person for a few girls. I had a few younger girls when I was an upperclassman come approach me and ask a few questions, which at that point, like, I was a teenager. I was like, I don't know why they're asking me these questions, but now reflecting back on it, I really think they had eating disorders and they were trying to find somebody that understood them, and they were trying to break free of what they were feeling, but they probably had some of the same insecurities I did around, I don't know if somebody is willing to listen. And so now I just really reflect back on that. And so that's where, like, here I am now in full circle, coming back to like what I could have been doing all along, but it just took me a long time to figure it out.
Yeah, I think sometimes thinking about my own story, the idea of paralleling good movement from livestock to humans, that took me several years. So I think that when we have something that we walk through, sometimes it just takes a little while to add the extra layers that you need.
You have to grow yourself before you can grow other things. Yeah. And that's where, like, the last 2 years, my fourth child was not planned. He was a complete surprise, which I love him so very much. And he is the best addition to our family. But what I thought I was going to be doing 2 years ago is nowhere what I'm doing now, which we had moved back to the farm, which was not even on my radar at that point either. But if I wouldn't have moved back to the farm, then I wouldn't have went to Cultivating Courage, and I wouldn't have went to some of these other events that, like, led me to meeting you and led me to meeting some other women that have ultimately changed my life and have added on to my, like, growing and learning more about myself so that I can help others.
I'm so excited for the rest of our conversation because it's going to be so great. But you talk about on your Instagram, you talk about rewriting the stories and beliefs around food. And, you know, that's stories and beliefs that we hold or the stories and beliefs that we've been told. But how can someone start to identify and change these narratives? Not just about food, but also about themselves and their capabilities.
So I will say anything that I will probably say for a lot of this podcast can go anywhere. Like, you can apply it to anything. You just have to think of it towards that aspect of whatever issues you're having or however you're trying to grow. So the 5 things I really focus on is self-awareness, challenging those beliefs, reframing those beliefs, seeking support, and having self-compassion for yourself. So with the self-awareness piece, knowing the reoccurring thoughts about food or the habits or intentions you have around food. Sometimes journaling helps. Journaling does not really work for me. So I am someone that processes my thoughts and feelings during movement, like during joyful movement. So I love going for walks during the sunset and just reflecting and being self-aware, which I would have not been saying that 4 months ago. The next step is challenging beliefs, asking where those thoughts are coming from. Are they coming from somewhere of social media told you that, society told you that, something in your past has triggered that. So like, did somebody say something to you as a child or even as like a teenager? Or is that coming from yourself? Like, is it something that you put in your own head and that you just need to reflect back on? Like, get curious, because curiosity is a wonderful, beautiful thing. The next step would be reframe, turn some of those negative thoughts into growth opportunities. So shifting I can't to I'm growing or I'm learning. Like, this is still a process because you didn't come up with those beliefs or those negative things in one day or 30 minutes. It has been a long reoccurring thing, most likely. The next thing is seeking support. So surrounding yourself with encouraging, growth-minded people or like-minded community or somebody that truly understands you. When a group of women gets together, amazing things happen and change happens. And I will stand by that for so long. And the last step is self-compassion, being patient, celebrating the small progress, and practicing kindness towards ourselves, because I feel like we are our own worst critics. And if we can't show some kindness or self-compassion for ourselves, then how are we going to do that for others in a positive light?
You know, I love all of those. And we talk about curiosity a ton on this podcast. Maybe listeners are tired of hearing the phrase honest questions, but we're going to keep talking about it. And so the self-awareness and being curious piece, like, so good. So we have the holidays coming up. Thanksgiving is just 2 weeks away. As we approach the holiday season and the smorgasbord of food that comes with the holiday season, how can we maintain a healthy relationship with food amidst some of the family pressures and potential food-related guilt that we might experience?
I really hate the word treat, so I'm just going to start with there because I feel like that brings like a negative, yucky, shameful, guilty feeling to us, because a treat to me, so like holiday treats, that is already setting yourself up for like, I shouldn't be having that, instead of just letting yourself have it and the joy it brings. Because I feel like we've been taking the emotion out of food because people make money off of that. People make money off of us not having emotions and feelings towards food anymore. Like, we are starting to gear towards, we need to be following this certain diet, and we're not connecting with our body anymore. And that disconnect is ultimately giving people money that probably really don't need that extra money, in my opinion. So staying connected to your body, checking in with how you feel physically and emotionally before, during, and after meals. And if you have to set a healthy boundary for yourself, do it, because it will help you in the long run. Because this body is for us. It's not for our mom. It's not for our dad. It's not for that Aunt Karen that is putting these negative thoughts in our head. It's for us. So we need to remind ourselves that it's not society that's in charge of ourselves. It's us. Like, we need to come back to how we feel and what brings us joy and satisfaction, because we've been kind of removing that piece out of food for a lot of years, because I don't know why, but it's very sad. And then the other thing that I feel like is a very important piece is enjoying the experience. Like, you are there to be present with your family and enjoy the celebration and the time with them. And so focus on those holiday memories, conversations, and connections rather than fixating on the food itself. Like, the food is good, it's great, but it's there to bring people together and make those connections. It's not there to be like this thing put up on a pedestal, like, I can't have that. Just shifting that mindset of putting that thing up and saying, I can't have that, and shifting it to like focusing on the connection, the conversations, and those holiday memories with the people that you love the most.
How much emotion are we taking out of food, and how much are we using food to actually numb emotions?
So I can actually speak volumes on that, because that was me, which I honestly didn't realize it until the last 5 years. I went through school and learned all these cool things and like all these scientific things about food and nutrition, and I loved it, but there was still just a piece that didn't speak to me. And it was because I am very emotionally related to food, or like I feel a lot with it. But then I took a step back and I had a really life-changing experience for me. I studied abroad in Italy as a mother of two and distance student. And I was there for a month, and just seeing how their culture uses food as like, it's not up on this pedestal, but they use it as like a tool to like be in community, be in connection. They're not focusing on that's a carb, that's a protein, that's a fat. They're just focusing on what brings them joy, and they go towards it. And that's why they love the conversation. They love the company. And I really am hoping to bring some of that back to here, because I feel like we've distanced ourselves from that with hustle culture. So I feel like for me, when I was younger, I wasn't getting some of the emotional support I needed. And I'm not really sure what yet, because I'm still digging into that. But I think that's what I used food for. It was like that thing that I could control, where the other situations were out of my control and I couldn't control those things. I was using food as a way to have some control in my life, because that's what we can control, is the stuff we put in our bodies. And so now I've like kind of shifted and pivoted away from that. And it's opened all these other doors for me and really opened up my mind to a lot of other possibilities. And that's where I've just really been trying to help other women kind of see those doors and see those opportunities and get them curious and get them kind of in that direction.
Like reconnecting them with their bodies and minds and emotions and souls.
Yes, all of that in one package. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So a lot of people struggle with negative comments from family members during the holiday gatherings. How can someone prepare for and respond to these comments with grace while prioritizing their well-being?
So I also struggle with this because I am a recovering people pleaser. Yay for me. But setting boundaries ahead of time. So deciding what topics are off limits for you, not for your Aunt Karen, and being ready to gently steer away from those conversations if they start to cross those lines. The next thing would be to have a response ready. So preparing something that isn't going to set a conflict off. So one statement I would like to use is, I'm focusing on enjoying the season. So let's talk about something else. It's diffusing the situation in a nice way and redirecting it without having a way for them to have a response. And the last one, which is probably the hardest for me, is choosing when to engage. It's okay to walk away from negative comments, because I know a lot of us struggle with that, and or politely changing the subject if it is affecting your peace. And I know for me personally, that is very hard for me to walk away if somebody says something negative, but sometimes you're just caught so off guard. And sometimes your response is not what you want it to be in the moment. And so to just neutralize or diffuse the situation, just walk away. It's okay. They might be mad or upset about it, but like, this is for you, not for them.
I love those. And they
can apply to anything.
Yeah, it comes back to, we did a validation series and we've had an episode on boundaries, and you're using those tools in this situation for this specific topic. And I really like what you said about setting your boundaries ahead of time, knowing what is off limits for you, and then holding those boundaries. I like that. And I think sometimes we think that boundaries are bad, and they can be. I mean, boundaries can be bad. If the boundary is like, we are never, ever going to talk about this ever, and it's like a family secret and it's like locked down. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a healthy boundary.
For us, it's not for them. It is for us. And that's where I think people really struggle with food, because we're told all these things from all these people. So we're focusing on what everybody else is telling us to do, but we're not listening to us. We're not listening to ourselves. We're only listening to everyone else. And I know how yucky that feels, because that was me. Like, I was taking in everybody else's advice. Oh, this is not good for you. This is not good for you. Oh, I can't have this during the holidays. That is not what we should be focusing on. We should be focusing on being present and being with the ones we love, because we ultimately only get so many Christmases with those people. And I know for me, I missed out on so many opportunities when I was in the deep, deep yucky stuff of my eating disorder. And now it makes me so sad. And I just want to go give myself younger self a hug.
Along the same vein of how can we respond, what would you say to someone who is listening who might be the deliverer of comments to family members during the holidays?
I honestly am not sure on that because I definitely would not be that way. Now, I will say, I feel like some people don't do it on purpose. And everything is a mirror reflection. So honestly, maybe that Aunt Karen, let's say she says something about, why are you eating that last cookie? It's full of carbs. At least you are aware because now you can think and take a step back and be like, the reason she made that comment is she probably is feeling that way about herself, or she has some sort of belief system that was instilled in her by someone else that was not okay to have. But I know better. I know better. And you can feel some compassion for that person. Maybe she wasn't meaning it out of being mean. Maybe she was just meaning it because that's what she was taught. And like, that's where having this self-awareness and being curious gets down. And like, you can think about why other people are being that way towards you.
I like that. It might even be like an opening for a conversation with Aunt Karen. I keep laughing every time we talk about Aunt Karen because I actually have an Aunt Karen.
Sorry, Aunt Karen.
No, but she wouldn't. It's good. But I just chuckle because I picture her every time we mention. But it might be an opening for a really great conversation with Aunt Karen.
A bonding time, a connection time for both of you, because a lot of us have all these things, and most of the time, or some of the time, now that we have social media, so many other doors have been unlocked. But for like our older generations, a lot of those things were instilled from somebody in their family. It wasn't that they got it off the television. It was that someone that they know and loved had some problems and struggled with it. And so they reflected those things onto them. And that's where having this self-awareness and being able to get curious bridges that gap and can give you some more compassion for somebody else that probably also shares some of the same struggles that you do.
Okay. For someone that's just starting their mindful eating journey during this holiday season, what's one small actionable step they can take to begin shifting their mindset around food?
So this all kind of comes back to some of the stuff I talked about earlier, but celebrate the memories, not just the food. So that statement, celebrate the memories, not just the food. Shifting the focus from the food to the joyful moments that we are spending with our friends and family will make the difference. And thinking about that and not thinking about, I can't have that treat. And I know like it takes time to get there. I did not think or feel this way even a year ago. So don't feel like you're never going to get there and you can't take the first step, but like just taking small steps. Don't have this huge goal of, I'm never gonna be able to do XYZ. Think about something small that can get you going in that direction. I didn't start, like we talked about earlier, this journey. There's been small little tidbits through my entire life that have gotten me here. And it started all the way back from when I was a kid. There is so many little small droplets of what created and came into like me being me now. And having an understanding for things that I wouldn't have thought about 5, 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, when you were talking about all of the small little things that got you to where you are and got, they set your beliefs or form your beliefs. I keep thinking about we spend our whole lives putting on our layers of personality, and personality is how we protect ourselves. And so we can't just expect all of those layers to shed because we're ready to not have that anymore. Like we have to take the time to peel back layer by layer.
Yes, I feel like that is a very good way to put it. Peeling back the onion layers. Haha, see what I did there? Hee hee.
Yeah, food, onion. And sometimes, just like with onions, peeling back the layers makes you cry.
Lots of crying involved, trust me. There has been many things that I didn't realize I had stuffed down and just like put away and packed away in this box that I just let sit on the dusty shelf for like years. And then now I'm just like, but wait, that like connects to like why I'm having this trigger or why I'm feeling this way. And honestly, if you want the biggest growth journey, it's having children, because a lot of the things that my kids are going through now, I have found triggers in my own journey from what I experienced as a kid. but at least now I have the awareness to be able to put that in perspective because it makes me a better mom for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It all starts with awareness.
Yes, yes, yes.
I have really enjoyed our conversation today. The last question is for anyone who's interested in working with you. It's a two-parter question. What are the ways that they can work with you, and where can they find you to reach out if they want to work with you?
Okay, so I am currently doing a group coaching program, but it closes November 1st and will go through December 27th. But I will be opening another one at the beginning of the year for some extra support, just like navigating the new year and hopefully setting some intentions for ourselves going into this next year. Because like you and I have talked about, this doesn't happen overnight. It happens over months or years of growing and changing. So I have the group coaching program. I also am looking for speaking engagements, being guests on any podcasts, and or being a workshop leader. And you can find me on Instagram at Kourtney.Talkington on Instagram. And if you can't make it into the group program, then send me a DM. We can maybe see on a way to work one-on-one with each other, or just talk to me. I'm an open book. I will answer any questions you have. Or if you just need to share an experience with somebody, I am always here.
Well, we will put all of that in the show notes. So don't worry about writing it down, especially if you're listening to this podcast episode and driving. It will be in the show notes.
That was me absorbing my information during movement, anytime, driving included.
Yes. But I've really enjoyed our conversation today. So thank you so much for coming on. But with that, until next time, draw good movement. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm so grateful for you. If you found value in this episode, I'd love for you to share with others who might also benefit from tuning in. Share by word of mouth, send it in a text, take a screenshot and post it on social media, or share however you prefer. And if you haven't already, hit the follow or subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Until next time, draw good movement.